We're just about finished now, just tidying up. As far as the PHP goes, we've done everything we need to do. We've got the information from the database, we've connected to the database. We've run a query on the database which has returned a number of records. We've checked that they're not empty, that there are some records. We've checked that it's not an empty set, that we've actually got some information. And we've set up an array ready to be encoded into JSON, and this array is going to contain inner arrays, so it's an array of arrays. So we've fetched all the data from the database, and each one has been a row of information containing an ID, first name, last name and age, and we've set up a temporary array called data, and in that temporary array we've taken the information from the database at that location, so ID, and we've stored it in the new array, the temporary array at ID. We've done the same for first name, for last name and for age, and we've printed that out to the screen, and at the moment all we've done is print the ID out, which is 1, 2, 3, 4. What we really need to do is take all the information in the data and store that in the response array at person. So I'm going to get rid of this line. Nice thing about PHP, there's a nice function if we need to, if you've done stacks, or if you haven't, this will be useful to you. We're going to push values onto an array, and there's a keyword in PHP called array push _push, and what that does is just puts another value on. Look at stacks, understand how stacks work, and you will understand what push is. I'm not really going to go into it here. It's going to divert attention from what we're trying to achieve, but the idea is I'm going to push a value into this array here. In fact, I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to say into this array at that place for person. What I want to do is push on my data that I collected here. So I know all of these are individual, but don't forget they're an array. That is the actual item that we are pushing there. So that is ready for encoding. We've now got an outer array with a set of inner arrays, which is going to match this feature here. Okay, so we've got the person consisting of an array of items, which in turn are sort of an array. So all we need to do is do the encoding. Now we don't want to encode it each time through the loop, because that will appear on the screen. It will give me one version and second version and a third version. We want to wait until the while loop's done all of its work, everything's been pushed on the array, and then we need to encode it into JSON. And don't forget, we return it as a string on the web page, because it's an endpoint, and whatever program needs it is going to expect JSON code. So all they want is JSON code on the web page. So I'm going to echo it out, JSON underscore encode. So that's taking the array, and the array that we are encoding is a response, all of it. Okay, so I don't need to say response person, response whatever. The whole array is going to be encoded and then printed out to the screen. That's our job done. We've got our data from the database, converted it to JSON, and then printed it out on the screen. So we can actually test that, see if it works now. And there we go. We've got all of our data, and I think you will agree, if you take a look at that, they should match up. Okay, so I've got the first line pretty much across the top on the first line. Just to be sure, if we copy all of that and then go to our formatter and validator, Let's go back to the top. Let's paste it in here and process it. We should see the records appear. Now this is really useful, this validator. I'm not playing with it just for the sake of playing with it. We're actually going to use this to help us extract the data when we talk to our endpoint using Python or Android or whatever. We'll need to know how the data is structured so that we can access each individual item and do what we need to do with it. So, almost finished. The last thing is that we have really down here, whenever there was an error, we just echoed out a string. And if you remember, if a program asks for an endpoint, it's expecting a JSON response. I suppose we could just do JSON encode and that item. We're going to change that around a little. We're going to be a bit more fancy. We don't need to, but it will help us understand a little bit about this response array with person as well. So I'm going to change the values that are here, the echoing out, and I'm going to change that into a JSON error message like we did in previous videos. So for this, I'm going to indicate that there's an error. I'm going to do it in a strange way. I'm going to take the response array, or response, and I'm going to say that this is a success. So what I'm trying to achieve here is, if I can go back to the start of this line, I'm going to have something looking like this: a pair, a success, error, or an array there indicating what the error was, okay, with a couple of name value pairs. So that's what I'm trying to achieve. I'm not going to continue that further. You'll see what happens. So the success is going to be equal to the word error, because that's what's happened. And I'm going to give a message out. So I'm going to use the response array again. Remember why I'm using the word response. It's because it's part and parcel of the language that we use when discussing HTML. And I'm going to give the message, and the message is going to be equal to, well, in this case the query actually not returning any data. We're just going to say no results returned, or maybe just the empty set. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this message now. And finally, I'm going to just do this. Whoops. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it there. Okay. Let's capitalize that. So that's how I'm going to write my JSON for an error message. I'm going to do it for the bottom one as well, because that is just returning a string. Something is amiss. I think I'll keep that error message, but all I need to do is copy this code and paste it there. So I'm dealing with my errors. Back them up. So the success is an error, and the returned string is going to be something is amiss, and then I'm going to print it out to the screen. That should be it. That should be my job done now. All we need to do is save it, run it, test it. So if I save it, let's go through the things that can happen. So first of all, everything can be nice and fine, which it is here. And when I press reload or press enter, I get my JSON code. Let's say there are no results. If you remember how we did that, we get the empty set. So if I change my query to be where age is greater than 90, that means there's going to be nobody in my database for that. I should have a different JSON response on my web page. So let's go back and hit that. There you go. Success is an error. The message, no results returned. That works nicely. See how I've used the name value pairs. The success is an error. I could have used success as well on the person table, but I didn't think that would be necessary. And the last one is if we have a problem and something is amiss, and that occurred whenever I changed the field name and the field name didn't exist. So if I now run that, there we go, I've got the error, the message, something is amiss. So everything that prints out to the screen now prints out in JSON, which is what I want, because it's my programming in Python and whatever, which is going to understand what it's had back and be able to react to it. So the next set of videos is going to take a look at Python and just adding 1 or 2 lines to this code so that we can start passing variables via the HTTP request method.